Hi, my name is Malathi Parthasarathy. I like to talk about backlog grooming. It's one of the simple but very effective processes. It's very popular with agile scrum teams. Before we get there, just some basic terminologies that you'd be coming across in 5 minutes. First thing is backlog. Backlog can refer to a product backlog, which is the list of all the features that has to be shipped with the product. Or it could be a release backlog, which is actually a subset of the product backlog, and it's time-boxed. The Scrum jargons are basically Scrum teams consist of developers and testers, the product owner that plans and works with Scrum teams, and sprints. It's 2 to 4 week implementation cycles. Next thing is backlog grooming. It comprises of a variety of activities. It could be epic decomposition, assigning priority to themes, creating new epics and themes as we progress to the release. And it could also be story point estimation, making early identification and resolution of requirement and design gaps. And the last thing is assigning stories in and out of a sprint. The backlog grooming activity is usually done by the Scrum team and the product owner together. It's done every sprint, and it's usually more frequent in the beginning of the release when the backlog is still evolving. How are you doing? The advantages of backlog grooming is that at the end of it, you get a very well-formed and well-structured backlog with better stories, and it makes the sprint planning sessions more easier. It also helps us uncover cross-team dependencies. So the spike tasks can be done early in the release. It also provides better traceability towards the milestones for the management, and planning for uncertainties is possible. Before the backlog grooming can commence, there has to be certain prerequisites to be in place. First, you have to have a certain software to manage the requirements and features, plan and track them, something like version 1 or TFS. The epics and themes have to be identified. The next thing is the participants, the Scrum teams, the product owner have to be identified. Plan to have at least the number of sprints in a release, that has to be determined, and also capacity planning for future sprints. So with all this in place, let's start backlog grooming. The first step would be epic breakdown. Epic is actually a huge user story that cannot fit into a single sprint. Example would be a bill pay module in your wireless account application. In epic decomposition, we identify large user stories and create them as epics, and also assign priority and sizes to them. And epics are assigned to a particular release. Usually this is not a periodic activity. Epics don't change every sprint, but in case there's an opportunity to change if you want to. The second step is organizing themes. Theme is nothing but a collection of similar stories, like paying by your MasterCard or American Express is a good example. Here, when we are talking about this in terms of backlog grooming, you assign priorities to themes so that they can be executed in a certain order at certain sprints. A theme can be canceled mid-sprint if desirable progress is not achieved. The third step is writing better stories. Consider a structure of a story like, as a user role, I'd like to have certain capabilities so that I can have the following benefits. And break up larger stories into smaller stories. This is very critical in identifying design impediments and cross-functional dependencies. And the fourth step is assigning priority to user stories. So I'm just going to read here. It's the minimum marketable features have the highest priority. Cross-team and shared components also have higher priorities here. The last step is story estimation. Story points are a measure of the impact a story will have on a sprint. It's kind of a function between the relative complexity and the average time it takes to implement a story. And velocity can be more accurate when you assign story points to a story and when it's getting completed in a sprint. So with all this in place, which is a well-groomed backlog, the next thing you need to do is to plan ahead for stories. Plan ahead for stories. Assign stories to at least future 2-3 sprints. And also for the current sprint, consider stories that cannot be completed and move it to future sprints. So, Carrie? Okay. Okay, so these are all the activities that go in backlog grooming. There are some challenges faced by teams that want to take it, and talk to me if you want to know more about it. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Jim Williams. I'm an audio design engineer. I know that a lot of you out there have heard somebody say in the back of the room, "Turn up the mic, we can't hear you." And this is always very disconcerting for a presenter. I was at a writers' conference with my wife, and several writers got up to read portions of their book. They were either too close to the mic, or they were way far back and you couldn't hear them. And when the intelligibility is suffering, people don't listen. They get out their cell phone, they start texting their friends or surfing the web. Now, don't start. And this is when I came up with an idea that I could connect a smartphone to an audio mixer for small presentations and even somewhat larger presentations. This was my original sketch. My design criteria was I wanted it to be easy for anybody to use, very small so it could pack into a carry-on bag, and compatible with both Apple and Android. Here's a block diagram. I'm a fan of the Arduino open source platform, and it was perfect for the proof of concept prototype. This is a really great design model because a potential customer can download a free app, try it out with your hardware idea, and if they like it, they buy the hardware, and that provides the income. The App Store is like a marketing tool. This was my original prototype, just a standard off-the-shelf Arduino board with a Wi-Fi module and the audio processing circuitries on the right there. This was the original iPhone app. The sliders had a 0 to 256 linear step, and that's not good for audio. The reason is because as humans, we hear in a logarithmic function. So I had to duplicate the logarithmic or audio taper pot that you find in audio amplifiers. Now, this was our first run prototype board. We took the Arduino and the audio processing and just made a generic board with 8 channels of input and 8 channels of output. I wanted this thing to be like a Swiss Army knife for audio processing with every possible type of connector. Microphones, guitar plugs, home stereo type plugs, and the little minis that are for iPods. And this was the audio testing I wanted to have. Better than 100 dB dynamic range, low distortion, and low signal-to-noise ratio. After I was satisfied with that, I had the PCB board laid out, and it was PCB Universe. I'd been trying to use local vendors whenever possible with this design. The enclosure was difficult because I wanted it to be low cost, easy to assemble, and somewhat attractive. So I chose a extruded aluminum with these rubber end caps. When I was doing a mock-up with the front panel, I discovered a problem with the little jacks were too close together, and the molding was causing them to bump into each other. So it was good that I mocked it up first. Here's the final design for the app. It was done by Josh Timonen of Secret Monkey Science. He did a fabulous job. I chose a retro-looking volume knob, and for the upgrade, I think I'm going to Photoshop an 11 down at the bottom. Now, For a typical application like a wedding, you'd see that the best man is now delivering his toast. And earlier today, we set up one of my little micro mixers, and now I'm going to bring up a little Take Me Out music here. Thank you very much. Then stick around for the rest of the performance.
Hit it. Good evening. I'm Trux Dole, and I'm from Regions. Oh, wait a minute. That was last year. How many of you are familiar with Cambia Health Solutions and know anything about it? Ooh, all right. Go for those ex-Regions people. All right. Well, you may know that Regions is the parent company of the 4 Blue plans in the Northwest. Cambia is now the parent company of all the other efforts that we're doing to take a whack at healthcare. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about 3 of the new efforts and the different problems we're trying to tackle. Cambia Direct Health Solutions is exactly that. We're all about developing new companies that are all about tackling different problems in healthcare. So let's talk about that. How many of you had to go to a doctor or hospital in the last year? All right. That was fun, wasn't it? Okay. How many of you booked an online flight in the last year? Okay. Would you have booked that flight if you didn't know what it cost, or that you could fly direct instead of going through Atlanta? Okay. So let's flip this paradigm on its head for a sec. What if the airlines worked like healthcare? 200,000 people a year die from preventable medical infections or hospital errors. You're 2,800 times safer getting on an airplane than you are going to a hospital. Let's talk about cost versus life expectancy. Not getting a lot of value here, right? And is insurance really the issue when up to 84% of our costs come from technology, pharma, and service price increases? Look at it another way. How about we put the patient back on center stage, educate them without overwhelming them, assimilate lots of different data, present it in a way that doesn't overwhelm them, and, how about eating spaghetti with a pencil? So that's where the new transparency company is all about. We're trying to help people have a greater say in the value of what they're getting for their healthcare dollar. We're taking the products we developed for Regions, and we're making them available to Blue plans across the country. Our Smarter Choices suite includes the cost tools I talked about last year, the patient reviews product, a health social network, and a provider search tool that Forrester just called the best in class, and it's raising the bar on the rest of the market. Our products are SaaS-based. They use SAML and all the latest Java tools, and I'd get whacked if I didn't talk about all the disparate data aggregation work that we do and the complex cost calculations that it takes to serve up an out-of-pocket cost. We're still so new we don't have a killer name yet, but we've got clients, revenues, and we've got analytic proof that shows that we are making a difference. So now I'm going to talk to you about 2 of our sister companies and what they're doing and the different problems they're tackling. Bear with me on this because I don't know as much about them. So Sprig Health provides healthcare access to the underinsured and helps providers with their capacity management and cash flows, and it offers employers a way to supplement their high deductible health plans. The online model makes it easy to get access to an ever-increasing range of health care when you need it, because they're contracting with docs that are willing to take an upfront discount in exchange for getting paid right away and not having to deal with the hassles of insurance paperwork. Using agile development, they were able to come to market really quickly by using a VMware-based infrastructure and a combination of open software like Ruby Rails and off-the-shelf web technologies. Since getting funding, the company's been, and building a product, the company's been all about expanding the market for affordable on-demand care. So what does that mean? Economically increasing brand awareness and recruiting docs that are high quality and offer decent discounts.